Hey everybody, we're back with another 4" by 4" canvas, and I'm using the Turner Acrylic Gouache, or Acryl Gouache. I have sitting out here some of the permanent orange, burnt sienna, Prussian blue, permanent green light, and magenta. I'm doing a pretty little single purple bellflower on a little stem, perfect as a little picture to put on an easel and display any place. It also would be great on a card or a bigger canvas. I'm going to go in and get this background done. I do want some permanent yellow also. There we go. I want to get this background in really fast. We're doing this real time, so let's see how we do. I'm going to take some of that yellow and orange and burnt sienna and just get this in here. I want a pretty kind of fall, autumn type of picture. This one is going to be, you know, the last little wildflower of summer, maybe. Let's grab more of that yellow. I want it to be warm and kind of golden. This paint is great for, I just picked up some plain orange. This paint is really good for these types of abstract backgrounds. I can go back in and paint over it. It is acrylic paint. It is, there we go. It is acrylic paint. It dries flat and matte. I'm gonna plop some of that in there. There we go. And now I'm going to grab a little bit of that burnt sienna with a touch of blue in it. And we're going to get some of this ground in. While the background is still wet, I want some of this foreground. Kind of like leaf litter here on the foreground. And I'm going to grab a little bit of that green just to kind of tap it in just a bit. You know, there's still a little bit of green showing up underneath. Just little bits, not a lot. Maybe a little bit into that right there. Make it a bit of a mid-range. I want to rinse my brush. I'm going to dry it off, and then I'm going to just lightly sort of brush that out just a little bit. I don't want it to be completely in your face. I want it to just be a hint of some color in the background. This is an up close and personal type of landscape. So it's, you know, a tiny little flower right here in front. I think I am going to grab a softer brush. This is a filbert. I was painting the background in with this 3/4 inch Simply Simmons. Now I have a number 8 filbert, Artist Loft Fundamentals. This again is something you can get at the craft store. So none of these materials are hard to find. I just got some water on my brush and I'm just picking up a tiny bit. I want to go in and sort of use this damp brush to move some of the paint around and give it almost a bokeh effect, which is that soft, out of focus, camera type effect that happens. Soft, out of focus effect. I'm just putting a little bit of that in with a bit of white and the orange in my brush, but soft, out of focus, not not snowballs. There we go. It's just little out of focus dots. Maybe a little bit of that even in the front. Soften up some of these areas. All right. So what I'm going to do now is just dry the painting with my heat tool. Okay, you can see where I didn't accidentally. I did it on purpose, not thinking. I'm just going to take some of that orange on my brush. Make some of those little dots a little smaller, I think. They don't need to be quite so big. See? That's one of the cool things, guys, with acrylic gouache. You can go in. You can change things. Take dark colors over light colors over dark colors. But you can also paint it very, very much like a watercolor if you wanted to. I'm keeping things kind of loose, kind of transparent actually. I'm letting some of these other colors show through. A little bit of that yellow. Ooh. Look at that. Just soften it in. Very abstract. I like that. Very abstract kind of look. Yeah, I have some random green showing up in my brush every once in a while. Love it. Love it. You know, that could actually stop and be a landscape. But for now, I do want to dry this again really quick. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my liner brush. I want to put my little stem in and some grasses or some greenery. I think I'm going to darken up this green just a little bit. This is that permanent green light. And then I'm going to take a touch of Prussian blue with it. A little bit more green. There we go. And I don't want my flower to be, the stem to be exactly in the center. I'm going to bring it up slightly to the side here. So I'm going to paint this up slightly from the side. I'm just going to go up and out to the tip and then let it kind of fall over. And there's these little, very light, almost star-like type petals or sepals. Probably these are sepals. These are at the back of the flower. And there's another one that's going to be kind of like this. Oops, going the opposite direction. Pulling out from the point where it's joined instead of where the instead of pushing in, because when you push in it gets thick and gloppy. So that feels lovely. I'm going to go ahead and get my brush wet. Maybe get a little bit of that green and some yellow on the brush and just sort of lightly, a little more yellow. Just sort of get some little bits of grasses down here where that's growing out of. Look at that. Ugh, just get a wiggle on it. Don't worry about making any mistakes here. The grasses are growing every which way. Some of them are going off the edge. Some are coming in from the edge. I'm making part of this up. If you want to see the reference that I use, please check the direction. If you want to see the reference that I use, make sure and check down below in the more information. I have everything down there, all the materials and the reference. Just getting some of these colors in there. I'm going to take a little bit of that brown in there now. Get some brown grass in here. This is the last flower of summer. The last little I think I'm going to put a little white in that even. This is the last wild flower of summer in this little area. Painting this on the first day of September. Oh, there we go. I like that. A little bit of white into that burnt sienna. Making sure it's nice and moist or damp, wet, all those good things. Grab a little bit of that green with the brown now. Layers, 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 layers. That's what we want here. We want layers. And we don't want this to be super organized. I want it to be a little disordered, a little there we go. I like that kind of old dried grass look. Let's see if I can get a little bit of yellow on that. Not that much. That's good. Sometimes your finger is a really helpful tool. Just touch and drag. All right, we're going to go back to just some bright green with a touch of that blue. Okay, you'll see I've got this big drop of water right here. Make sure and wipe those drops of water off so that they don't drip down and hit your painting. I'm going to go ahead and put another little guy right there. It's a little flower bud. Maybe another little flower bud coming up right here. All right. Let's go ahead and go back to the top-down view. So I'm just wetting some of these areas here. The paint is still a little bit wet. And where it's still a little wet, I can wet it down and smooth it out a little. There we go. Now I am going to make kind of a pinky purpley color for the flower. And this is a little bell flower. And I think we'll draw it on here real quick so that you can see what I'm doing. I want to make sure this is all really dry. So the little flower, the back end of it is basically a U shape. Like that, just a little U. And then it has the little flares that stick out. There's a V. Kind of like a little tulip type flower almost. general shape. You don't have to have a perfect shape on here. Now I see there's a little flower bud here, and there's a little bud there, and there's like a, I'm going to say there's a dried up one right over here. Yeah, that'll be good. All right, these are going to be a very pale purpley lavendery type of color, and I am actually going to use a little brush. So I'm taking magenta and, whoops, not so much Prussian blue, a little bit of Prussian blue. Oh, that was a lot of Prussian blue. But when I add some white, it's going to get that a little bit more what I want, a little bit more white. I don't want it to be, whoops, there was some orange in that, so it kind of, well, no, actually it was fine. Woohoo! All right, so there, we've got this sort of pale purple lavender color. It is going to go right on here. Like this. And then I'm going to just drop some of that purple on here for the sort of dead flower. It's hanging out. A little bit right here and right here. For some of that coming up, I think I might take a little bit of this blue, really kind of darken that down just a little bit. Put a little bit of some shadow, right like that. Not, you know, these are kind of abstract. Whoops, make sure I got all the drips off. Abstract little flowers. Oh, there, that's what I needed. Okay, so I'm going to grab some of that purple. I'm going to say that this one, the petal is turned back. Look at what I did. All I did was add a little triangle. Start adding a little bit of the shadow, a little bit of that darker color, and it just I'm just chasing the color around the palette. Ah, there, that's the color I wanted, more the magenta for that shadow. There we go. Have fun, guys. All right, have fun, my friends. Just enjoy the process here. I'm gonna grab some white. This petal being flipped back like this. A little bit of white out here, out on that tip, up on this tip. What I'm doing, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing how the, you know, I don't really like having it be that big, so I'm going to just moosh that around, adjust. I'm going to say that it's more over like this. Ah, yes. And a little more more white. Coming off on that front edge, a little more white. A little more dark right down in the middle. Start pushing that back just a little bit. Play with it. See how it feels. Adjust as you need. That's too white. Take a little more purple. A little more magenta. It's a push and pull. And if you don't like something, you can adjust it. You can say, you know, I don't really like that. I want to make it a little bit darker, or I want to make it a little bit lighter. Just look at that. It's starting to come out now as an actual flower and not just an idea of maybe being a flower. Needs to be darker on the inside. I'm going to say that that petal is being pushed back a little bit. It's darker towards the middle there. It's lighter towards the outside edge. You start to learn how things are put together, and you also start to see with your eyes and with your hand, basically, how this all works together. That flower looks impossibly big for that stem. I need to add a little bit more green to the back of it. I'm going to say that there's that coming off. Yeah, this stem does feel kind of impossibly small. So I'm going to make it a little bit sturdier. Make that a little bit darker. Where it's crossing, the part that's in the back is darker. The stem in the front is lighter. There we go. There's still some highlights on those bits that are to the back. I'm having fun. I'm just enjoying my time. I hope you are. If you are, go ahead and click that like button, subscribe to the channel, you know, all the stuff. All the good stuff. Maybe a touch of orange in that green. Ooh, yeah, the orange and the green. The orange and the green just sort of gives it a little bit of depth. I need to get some much darker areas down here in the bottom. So I'm just going to mix up some burnt sienna and Prussian blue. Maybe put like a stick down here. And I'm just using this. This is a monogram liner. Silver brush, monogram liner. Sort of twiggly. Sort of twiggling this up just a bit. Bit of a highlight on the top edge of it. There is that little stick in the reference, so it's making sense to put it in. There we are. I see some kind of out of focus bits down here in the very front. Maybe a little bit of that orange and burnt sienna. Keeping it abstract. You know, if you don't have to do any of this. This is, whoops. This is all just me being relaxed in the studio and just having a fun time. I hope that you are having a fun time. Grab some of that darker color. This is where I'm just sort of letting go and letting the brush kind of do its thing. And just decide, ooh, yeah, I do want some orange up here. This is a very orange painting. It's going to take a special person to like it, I think. But I like it. So I guess I'm a special person, right? I hope you like it also. Then you can be a special person along with me. A little bit darker right there. A couple little top touches of green down in here. Abstract. Just rolling my brush along. I'm just going like this, rolling my brush. Letting the bristles sort of do their own thing. And that right there was a drop of water. So instead of letting it just sit there or blotting it off, I'm going to go ahead and use it so that I don't end up touching it and then getting the paint picked up. Because if you touch wet paint on here and try and blot it off, if you try and blot the water off, you will end up with your brush or your towel or whatever lifting all the way down to the canvas. Because none of this paint is actually cured yet. It might be surface dry. But if you rub it or blot too hard, it will, oh, I like that. It will end up lifting all the way off. Dagnabbit. So there we go. I am pretty happy with this. I think maybe a tiny touch of white up here and out on the tips. Maybe smooth that petal out just a little bit. Get just a tiny little dab, and then take some more white. There we go. Just wanted a little bit darker right in that. Using some yellow for some highlights up here. Again, trying to keep it fairly loose, not trying to I think it got the stem got too heavy here. Got too heavy. I'm going to use a little bit of orange. Thin that down. A little bit of the background color. And as long as I take that color around at that same level, doesn't have to be solid, but it does need to kind of be around, because what that does is it makes it feel like I didn't just fix something. You know? And once it's dry, you're not even going to really notice. A little bit right here. It feels a little bit muddy, so I'm just going to brighten it up. There. Brighten this up. Using my finger, kind of mush it around a little. See, that's really muddy right there, and that really is making me not pleased. So I'm going to grab some yellow. I'm going to take yellow and maybe even a touch of, there we go. See, brighten it up. Little yellow, little orange, little white, no purple. If you get any purple in it, then you're going to end up with it muddying out or graying down. I like this. Kind of lighten it up here. Oh, now that's making it feel almost like that dot there is the sun. I like it. I like it. There we go. All right. I like that a lot. was getting a little too tall in the dark right there. Get a little bit more light down in here. Again, I am adjusting as I'm going along, saying, I like something, I don't like something. And see if I like a brush stroke, a style of a line. Liking some of those. And you might say, but I liked it better when, and you can always stop at that point if you notice that it's at that point when you liked it better. Since I'm doing this, I'm trying to do it like a one shot without doing a lot of extra editing on this. So because of that, sometimes I go too far and then I have to fix it. Ooh, like that. I like that. Let's see here. You can't hardly even see that little stick branch thing that I put in there. That's okay. I'm going to grab my liner brush again. I'm going to get some of this yellow and green. I want to spark it up. I don't want it to be quite so dark down here. A little bit of blue. Yes, the blue is going to darken it up, but it's going to be another green. And I'm going to have a lot of... There. Some more yellow. Get it wet. Keeping it. Trying to keep it loose. And do you know how hard it is to keep something loose when you've already gone too far? Yup. I know I've gone too far, but am I having fun doing it? Yeah. I'm just kind of drawing that branch in again. Maybe a little bit differently. Getting it kind of twigging. That's what I wanted. I needed something else coming up into this. There we go. And I do need a bit of that yellowy white. The sun is hitting it in a few spots here. There we go. See, sometimes that's what you need. You just need to put a branch in. Yep. Grabbing some of the dark blue. Get the underside of this away from the sunlight. Couple little leaves, grasses, abstractly coming across. There we go. Okay. I think I'm going to say I'm done. I'm going to sign it. And move on to the next one. There we go. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to click that like button to let me know. If you are interested in more videos like this, click the iCard up here for my #SmallNatureArtChallenge. That'll take you to the playlist with all of the videos that I've done so far. Remember, go out and do something creative. Take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you. I want to see you back here again really soon. Bye-bye.